President Gonzalez, you are streaming.
Thank you, and welcome to the Board of Education meeting for November 5th, 2025. I call this meeting to order. I want to remind everyone speaking tonight that we do use the closed captioning function on YouTube, so please speak as clearly as possible. Now I ask that you stand if able and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance in English and in Spanish.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Juro fidelidad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos.
We'll now move on to our acknowledgement of tribal lands. We gratefully acknowledge the Native peoples on whose homelands we gather, as well as the diverse and vibrant Native communities who make their home here today. I now ask for a moment of silence for those who've given their lives in service to this country. Great, Dr. Albright, can we have a roll call, please?
Here.
Crystal Tapia Romero.
Here.
Courtney Jackson.
Here.
Josefina Dominguez.
Here.
Heather Benavides.
Here.
Danielle Gonzalez.
Here. Our next item is to consider adoption of the November 5th, 2025 Board of Education meeting agenda. I want to remind board members that per the APS Board of Education Governance Manual, you can ask that an item be removed from the consent agenda before the meeting agenda is posted, but not during the meeting. With that, do we have a motion and a second?
I move we adopt the November 5th, 2025 Board of Education meeting agenda. This is Member Jackson.
This is Crystal, I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Janelle Astorga.
Yes.
Crystal Tapia Romero.
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes.
Josefina Dominguez.
Yes.
Heather Benavides.
Yes.
Danielle Gonzalez.
Yes. Our next item is to consider approval of the minutes from the Board of Education meeting on October 15th, 2025. Can we have a motion and a second?
I move that we approve the minutes from the Board of Education meeting on October 15th, 2025. This is Board Member Benavides.
This is Board Member Dominguez, I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Janelle Astorga.
Yes.
Crystal Tapia Romero.
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes.
Josefina Dominguez.
Yes.
Heather Benavides.
Yes.
Danielle Gonzalez.
Yes. Our next item is public forum. Board Secretary Astorga, will you please share the instructions for public forum?
Yes, thank you, Board President. Welcome to our public forum guests. When you signed up to speak, you were asked to review rules and expectations which our presiding officer will enforce. The New Mexico Open Meetings Act requires that our agenda specify in advance the items that will be discussed and voted on during the meeting. Therefore, public forum is not a dialogue among speakers and board members, but rather a chance to hear from our community. We will call participants to speak in the order they signed up, whether in person or virtual. Those here with us tonight will be asked to come to the microphone at the back of the room when their name is called. Online guests will stay in a virtual waiting room until it's their turn to speak. We have set aside 45 minutes for public forum. If there are 22 or fewer speakers, you will each have 2 minutes to speak. Otherwise, you will have 1 minute. Tonight, we have 13 speakers, so you will have 2 minutes to speak. Once your time is up, you will be asked to quickly wrap up. If you feel unable to convey your message, you may email boarded@aps.edu. In addition, for those of you here tonight, a representative from our service center is here to assist you. Mr. Gonzalez, please introduce the speakers.
Thank you, Board Member Astorga. Our first speaker in person tonight is going to be Matthew Burrows. You'll have 2 minutes once you begin speaking.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, Board President Gonzalez, Superintendent Blakey, and the members of the board. My name is Matthew Burrows, and I'm the principal of Wilson Middle School. At Wilson Middle School, we are transforming the way we teach and connect with students through two powerful initiatives. The first one, the Next Education Workforce Initiative, also known Teamin, and Web, Where Everyone Belongs. These two initiatives are helping us impact our work towards Goal 2 math proficiency. through the Next Education workforce. Sixth grade team, which is made up of a humanities block of 3 teachers, has truly reimagined the classroom. Instead of one teacher lead in from the front, students now learn in an inclusive, collaborative environment where multiple educators share expertise and build deeper relationships with students. This approach has increased both student and teacher engagement at our school. I have a 48-year-old veteran teacher who has seen a rebirth in her teaching at the middle school level. It has strengthened our teamwork amongst students, their peers, and even brought learning into the community through real-world projects. Our web program, Where Everyone Belongs, has made a tremendous impact on school culture too. Our 8th grade learners are mentoring our 6th graders, helping them feel welcomed, supported, and confident as they transition to middle school. And we're seeing the results in our panorama data. Our sense of belonging at our school grew from our last semester to this semester by 6%, from 32 to 38%, which is huge for our school. With growth also in self-regulation, perseverance, and self-efficacy as well. That tells us our students are feeling more connected, capable, and valued.
Mr. Burrows, you've gone over your 2 minutes. Can you wrap up in a quick, short sentence?
Okay. Academically, we are also making steady progress towards Goal 2 proficiency. Our iReady grew from 3.5 to 5.7. But more importantly, our Yazzie Martinez and African-American students increased from 3.65% to 4.9% in our New Mexico standardized test.
Sir, okay, you've gone over your time. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. Our next speaker is on Zoom, Crystal Friedman. You'll have 2 minutes once you begin speaking.
Thank you. Good evening, President Gonzalez, Superintendent Blakey, and members of the board. My name is Crystal Friedman, and I am the proud principal of Eisenhower Middle School. At Eisenhower, we know that the transition from elementary to middle school can feel overwhelming for students and families. That's why our Where Everybody Belongs, or WEB program, has become such an essential part of who we are as a school community. WEB pairs our incoming 6th graders with trained 8th grade leaders who serve as mentors, role models, and guides throughout the year. It begins before the first day of school, when WEB leaders welcome our new students with energy, games, and small group activities that help break down anxiety and build connections. But the impact doesn't stop there. Our leaders continue to check in, host lunch meetups, and support academic and social success long after orientation day. The results have been powerful. Our 6th graders start the year more confident, connected, and ready to learn. Teachers report stronger engagement and fewer social struggles in those critical first weeks. And perhaps most importantly, our 8th grade WEB leaders develop empathy, leadership, and pride in their school, creating a ripple effect that strengthens our entire Eisenhower community. We've also seen an increase in our Panorama survey scores this year, and I truly believe much of the improvement is due to WEB. It's helping students feel more connected, supported, and a part of something bigger. I also want to give a special shout out to our amazing coaches, Jessica Thomas, Sarah Romero, and Erin Weddington, who pour their heart and soul into supporting our students. Their dedication makes this program possible and is truly extraordinary. WEB has helped us create a culture where every student feels seen, supported, and like they truly belong. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is going to be Ken Marriage.
Yes,
You'll have 2 minutes once you begin speaking, sir.
thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to speak here tonight. Sorry I'm not there in person. But we are hosting Jimmy Carter tonight, so I'll be in the gym as soon as this is done. But similar to what's been voiced already, it's definitely a team effort for our success at John Adams Middle School from the past year, with our increase in math scores going to double digits above 10%. We're very excited about that. The short story to that is that we had probably our strongest 90-day plan last year. I'm very proud of our teacher leaders who came together and analyzed the data and really saw where we could have the biggest impact. And then across the board, all of our teachers supported it thoroughly. We say here at John Adams, it's not just ELA or math scores, they're everybody's scores. And so it was a team effort with the extended responses that they did and requiring those extended responses to be turned in with handwritten notes after iReady tests, as well as state tests, to really get them in the habit of thinking critically and thinking that through. The long story is that for years now, we've been really improving the school culture in John Adams Middle School. And the Tap to Web is that I think before now we may not have been ready for it, but this year it's come through and been a wonderful program. Our 8th graders have really enjoyed stepping up to be those mentors. And I know that the 6th graders have really enjoyed it. Our panorama scores went up in all categories as well. So that's very exciting news. And we have a saying here, the pride, Panther pride, perseverance, responsibility, integrity, determination, and excellence. And when we really start to think about that, I think perseverance is crux. And how do you teach that to students? I think what it comes down to is confidence. And what we've been doing for years here is giving the students the confidence to really take risks. And through our school culture and what we've done behaviorally throughout the school, our students feel safe doing that here, and they know they can do their best, and they'll continue to show up and we look for better scores this next year. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is also on Zoom, Renelle Cox.
Oh, trying to get the video going. Is the video working?
It is, ma'am, and I can hear you. You'll have 2 minutes once you begin speaking.
I want to thank the board, President Gonzalez, Superintendent Blakey, and the members of the board for allowing me to be here. My name is Renelle Cox. I am the Desert Ridge Middle School librarian at, Desert Ridge. And I am here on behalf of myself and my co-leader of WEB, Suzette Dickinson. Sorry, I'm nervous. WEB is the program where everyone belongs, and it has been amazing. Our 8th graders get to mentor our 6th graders. The district making this program a focus and an initiative for middle schools has helped build school culture and inclusivity. It's made a huge difference. Our school is huge. It's growing. We recruited and trained 80 8th graders. They gave up part of their summer to be trained. They were amazing for 350 6th graders at our Jumpstart. So it was a big time thing, and it was great. We've seen increases in our panorama data as well, 4% for sense of belonging from fall 2024 to 25, 7% increase for school climate, and just kids being able to get involved in leadership. Sometimes it's academic, sometimes it's sports, but leadership is a great skill for life. The school and board, I hope this continues with funding and training for people who do leave their school or need a partner to help out. Our 6th graders came in with more confidence, more comfortable. Our WEB leaders, I asked them for feedback. They said they love working as a team. They felt it was more inclusive. We represented lots of different kids at school, and they get to connect to their peers. 6th graders also asked after our Jumpstart, when can I be a WEB leader? Which is amazing because it's just the future. Promoting positive culture, kindness, and joy in education is essential. Sense of belonging, especially in middle school, is important for wanting kids and wanting them to show up every day. We don't know everything about our students and staff and communities and what they're going through, so I'm going to end with just a quote from Aesop. No act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted. Thank you so much for hearing me tonight.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is also on Zoom, Renee Garcia. Forgive me, Renee Salazar Garcia.
Hello, my name is Renee Salazar Garcia, and I am the proud principal at LBJ Middle School. With the opportunity for WEB in conjunction with the middle school redesign, we are seeing some very early results that are just nothing short of amazing. In my walkthroughs and informal observations, I am seeing improved student engagement. The common expectations set out by the team has resulted in fewer classroom referrals, fewer discipline referrals school-wide. We're seeing teachers report that their morale has increased because of the opportunity to work together as a team rather than the isolation of traditional teaching. Another thing that we're seeing is the ability to proactively address student concerns and needs by meeting with parents as a team so that parents get an idea of the full day and how the student is doing across the school day. We also have seen results that have increased for Panorama scores in terms of in regard to safety, school climate, and rigor. We're seeing improved student proficiency on our IXL diagnostics from the 30 to 60 days. We currently, our web program is working with their 6th grade mentees on Friendsgiving for Thanksgiving. So making sure that the mentorship continues and it provides relationships, which makes students feel more of a sense of belonging. Teachers having the ability to have cross-curricular units. Students are seeing that their teachers are super engaged, and so they are in return. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you this evening.
Thank you. Our next speaker is in the room. It is Renee Pacheco. You'll have 2 minutes once you begin speaking.
Good evening. I come before you tonight as one who cares deeply about the trust between parents and both schools. Recently, many parents were shocked to learn that Albuquerque Public Schools administered a student survey to the middle and high schoolers that included personal questions, questions about sexual behavior, mental health, and legally recognized privileged relationships. If students are being asked these questions without parent consent, it may be illegal under federal law. The Protection of Pupil Rights Amendment, PPRA, gives parents the right to control whether their children are asked about certain protected topics. Under PPRA, schools that receive federal funding must notify parents in advance and obtain written consent before students take any such survey, even if the survey is anonymous or called voluntary. Parent notice and the opportunity to opt out are required by law. I urge the board to disclose what survey was administered, who approved it, and what questions were asked. Confirm whether parents' consent or opt-out notices were provided as required by federal law. Suspend any future surveys on protected topics until PPRA compliance is verified. APS's mission statement speaks about respect, integrity, and collaboration. That begins with respecting parental rights and upholding the law. The relationship between schools and families can only thrive when parents are informed and trusted as partners, not kept in the dark.
Thank you. Our next speaker is on Zoom, Kate Siders. You'll have 2 minutes once you begin speaking.
Good evening, Board President Gonzalez, Superintendent Blakey, and members of the board. I am the teaching and learning coach at Jefferson, but I'm also lucky enough to be one of our web coordinators. And I was able to be trained with a lot of the people who have spoken already tonight in the spring. And I know we were all very overwhelmed by taking on this initiative, but we so appreciate the district's push because, like everyone has said, we have seen such a difference in our school climate. We recruited and trained 41 8th graders who gave up several days of their summer to come learn how to be the leaders that we needed them to be. And then the vast majority of our incoming 6th graders joined us on that jumpstart day and got to learn from their 8th grade leaders. We as the adults had very little to do with the day. They were able to learn directly from those 8th graders. Not only have we seen the anecdotal evidence in the hallways and in the conversations that we're having with students, our Panorama data backs it up as well. Our 6th graders showed an increase of 10 points in sense of belonging, and our 8th graders showed an increase of 8 points. What's also notable is that our 7th graders who did not have the opportunity to participate as 6th graders and haven't yet had the opportunity as 8th grade leaders, their sense of belonging dropped 2 points. I think that is really indicative of how impactful and powerful this has been. And I really hope that the district will put the support behind it so that we can build on the momentum that our students and our staff are already expressing. Thank you for allowing us to speak tonight.
Thank you. Our next speaker is on Zoom, Hannah. I'm stuck on that one. I'm sorry. But Hannah, you'll have 2 minutes once you begin speaking.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good evening, Board President Gonzalez, Superintendent Blakey, and members of the board. My name is Hannah Manolfa, and I'm the principal at Tres Volcanes Community Collaborative K-8. I'd like to take a minute to talk about the growth we've seen on our campus. While we've seen progress in all areas, I'm going to highlight our growth in Goal 2. Our 7th grade proficiency rate in math increased by nearly 8 percentage points. Additionally, our 7th grade to 8th grade cohort data also showed an increase in nearly 6 percentage points. Goal 2 focuses on math proficiency in middle school, but this proficiency does not happen without the hard work in elementary school. It's worth noting that our 3rd grade math scores also showed an increase of 15 percentage points. Our panorama scores have also shown an increase in all areas this year, partly because of the WEB program led by one of our amazing counselors, Miss Becky Scott. Our ELA scores are also outstanding, showing that our students feel like they belong and they show up daily to learn. Our teachers have focused on collaborative learning, high quality instructional materials, and just-in-time supports to see every student successful in all academic areas, especially in math. I'm proud of the work that they've done, and we're looking forward to continued growth over the year. Thank you for your time, and don't forget that at Tres Volcanes, we bring the heat every day.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is in the room, Dr. Sanello. You'll have 2 minutes, sir.
Sorry about that. Good evening, Madam President and members of the school board. As you already know, I am an alternative health doctor and minister. 2 months ago, the state legislators passed the vaccine immunization, which will greatly devastate our children's health and well-being. Anyone should be concerned. I'm very concerned for this. What will be the outcome in the next few years or even sooner, the results of what happened for those who've taken the vaccines. Did you know that according to CDC, there are over 300 pages of evidence regarding vaccines? And that and they found that the vaccine causes autism. And according to Dr. Peter McCullough, the odds of the children getting myocarditis before taking COVID, it was 1 in 250,000. After COVID, 1 in 40. So what's in the vaccine? Aluminum, mercury, acetone, antifreeze, some of the nanobots, monkeypox, aborted fetal tissues, hydrogels, among many other things. And I mentioned mercury. That's gonna create a lot of health problems in the future for the future of the kids. So how do you expect our children to perform in education, knowing that we're still 50th in the state, 50th in the nation as far as education is concerned? So I'm very concerned that that could happen to the children's health well-being, especially if they're going to be leaders, and we're not going to have that. So I would really highly recommend that you guys do your homework on that and talk to your legislators and among others, because this is dangerous. Think of it as your children in that aspect. I've been working the last 5 years trying to reverse some of these toxic vaccines. And so I just want to encourage that think about it, and because this affects the children's health being. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Rosendo Nahar. Sir, you have 2 minutes once you begin speaking.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Blakey. My name is Rosendo Nahar. I'm the president of Carpenters Local 1319. And I'm just here to speak. I know on Monday's policy committee meeting, there was a discussion and a bit of confusion as to what CSWAs actually is and how it helps the community. The purpose of the community and student workforce agreement is to ensure that the community and the students actually benefit from the investments being made into the communities via their tax dollars. The CSWA is simply an agreement that states when there is a new construction or remodel project happening on APS above the threshold of $5 million, there will be a project labor agreement with the trades unions. The purpose of which is to ensure that on all these projects, we have state certified apprenticeship to help with the workforce development that we need, Arista quality type medical benefits, and pension plans so these guys can retire with dignity. PLAs are all inclusive and do not exclude any open shop contractors from bidding on projects. To the contrary, open shop contractors benefit by having access to workers and training that the unions must provide on these projects. I see no issue with stating that not only as a school board do we discuss and support CTE programs back in the high schools, but that is also, as a school board, you're committed to putting the support in writing through this community and student workforce agreement to ensure students have a clear pathway to employment after their graduation, or in some cases like mine, not graduated at all. PLAs don't raise the cost, they raise the standards on these projects. And if we have entities that are going to say by raising the standards, they no longer want to bid your projects, then so be it. We have several contractors in the state and the city that are willing to bid these projects because they do abide by these standards. They do believe in providing insurance and pension plans to their workforce. So please, if there's misinformation, reach out. You could always reach out to the city of Albuquerque and Bernalillo County, which we have these community workforce agreements in place right now. We're not reinventing the wheel. Reach out to them. It's been very beneficial to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Omar Talamantes, followed by David Ortiz. Omar, you have 2 minutes once you begin speaking.
Good evening, members. Good evening, Chair and members of the board. My name is Omar Talamantes, and I am here to speak in favor of the CSWA. This is an opportunity for students and to further their future. Students to get a good job in the community and to have a good livable wage. It creates community wealth and benefits our kids and our families. It's similar to the CWA with the city, like Rosendo said. It's going to help a lot of people to get work, a lot of students to get jobs here. And it's a chance to create work, to create families that can stay here and don't have to go somewhere else for work. Creates valuable skills, and it's going to put students directly into jobs and that where they can stay here. Our goal is simple, is to graduate here, work here, and provide and build here and be great at it. This will raise the standards, but at no cost, and will not raise the cost and create community wealth. Thank you, Chair and members of the council.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is David Ortiz, followed by Lawrence Geis. You'll have 2 minutes once you begin speaking, sir.
Thank you. My name is, hello, Madam Chair, Superintendent Blakey, members of the board. My name is David Ortiz, members of Carpenters 1319, and I'm the chair of the Political Action Committee. As chair of the Political Action Committee for our local, we have been very involved in the past several months educating our members as how not to only what politicians to vote and which way board members, but also want board measures to vote for as well. We have over 1,500 members in our local, and we make calls and send mailers to all of them to make sure that they get our vote for APS school measures. I would like to ask naysayers and who are going against the community student workforce agreement as to how much work they put to ensure in these school board members and money in the future projects. I've been building for 40 years in New Mexico. 5 years I worked for APS. I'm a contractor for MNO. These students, I need them. I need to teach them how to build their schools and continue maintaining them. One of the goals of the school board has to see how we can get CT programs back into the high schools and our school system. It's great to talk about it, getting trades back in the classes, back into the high schools. But what we are actually doing to ensure these kids have to work once they are done. The agreement is creating the pathways of employment for them, and I don't see how anybody in this community would be against unless they have something to hide. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Lawrence Geis. You'll have 2 minutes once you begin speaking, sir.
Good evening, board members. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm also going to speak in favor of the Community Student Workforce Agreement. This would be a win-win situation for APS as well as for the community. Myself, I'm a 25-year member of Local 1319 Carpenters. I'm also, since I retired, I'm also a part-time teacher at Ace Leadership High School. I teach a shop class there. And I have students who want to continue on into a trade. And I would like to see them stay in our community and not have to take work with an out-of-state contractors. This agreement, like it's already been said, is a benefit to the community as well as APS, because using contractors with a state certified apprenticeship program, you're going to get the work done right the first time. And it is not necessarily in favor of unions, because as long as a non-union contractor has a state certified apprenticeship program, they can bid on these projects as well. And this pretty much follows what we have right now with the county, Bernalillo County, as well as City of Albuquerque. We have project labor agreements, workforce agreements, and this keeps the community, the money stays in the community, and more importantly, our students that come out into a trade have work. I would like to see some of my students actually work on a school that they went to. Right now, we pretty much have to send them to the big projects like Facebook and Intel, places like that. But I think it would be nice if they could actually come work on a school that they actually went to when they were younger. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, sir. And President Gonzalez, that completes public forum.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez, and thank you to all of our public forum guests. Our next item is to consider acceptance of the progress monitoring report for interim goals 2.1 and 2.2, which are related to math proficiency. Our presenters from this item will be our superintendent, Dr. Gabriella Blakey, Dr. Randy Mollerwine, our deputy superintendent for leadership and learning, Sherry Jett, chief academic officer, and Chris Sanchez, assistant superintendent for middle schools. As noted, tonight we will be monitoring goals 2.1 and 2.2. We'll begin with goal 2, math proficiency, but before we begin, we need to confirm that the monitoring reports are complete. I did meet with the administration and confirmed that all of the criteria for an effective report have been met, but I'll open the floor for any other board member who thinks we may be missing one of the elements. Does anyone have any suggestion any evidence, that suggests otherwise? All right, excellent. Since everyone agrees that the required elements are present, we'll open the floor for our monitoring conversation. As a reminder, we have had the opportunity to ask questions that are technical and tactical in nature before tonight's meeting. So these questions and answers that were submitted would be posted on the agenda for tonight's meeting. Each member for tonight is expected to ask a question during the meeting to help us understand how the administration's actions align to the board's goals and guardrails. Those questions are expected to be SMART, meaning that they must be strategic, measure-focused, task-oriented, results-driven, and time-bound. So let's get started. We'll go ahead and start to the right. Member Astorga, do you have a question?
I do. Thank you for your report. My question is, given that only 1.6% of sixth grade ELL students scored proficient or above, what short cycle intervention checkpoints are in place to prevent persistent underperformance? And how will schools monitor ELL performance growth across all 4 math domains with real-time disaggregated data? Sorry, it's fully loaded.
Board President Gonzalez, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Blakey, thank you for the question. We are, as noted, looking very carefully at the strategies we use to support our English language learners. And one of the particular strategies is around language routines. And so our high quality instructional material is a curriculum that actually leans into language routines. And so part of the strategy is to, you may have noticed in the strategies we've talked about a relaunch of that curriculum and how it is implemented in the classroom. Specific to your question around English language learners, as we relaunch that and really looking carefully at how we use the language routines, for example, sentence stems, being able then to go in, particularly with our teaching and learning coaches in the schools, in order to see, okay, how is that being used? provide just-in-time coaching to our teachers. So we are directly supporting that strategy. I do think there's room to tighten up the interim assessment work on that around common formatives, and that's an ongoing conversation that we have among the teaching and learning team.
And just a quick follow-up, when they're meeting with their coaches and doing those kind of one-on-ones, what type of checkpoints are we seeing for that? Are there alternative assessments that we're doing? Is it kind of just like a verbal progression that we're noticing with the students? What does that look like?
Mr. West may be able to speak better to some of those shorter term assessments around the ELL specifically, but currently it is mainly observational data and then providing the feedback cycle. We certainly, as we dig into how we use our interim assessments, we are looking for patterns and trends that may also help us guide that conversation.
Board President Gonzalez, Board Member Astorga, oh yes, I'm supposed to be, sorry. Superintendent Blakey, as Ms. Jett said, so one thing to note with these students, so these are our sixth grade students that you're referring to. So these are our students who, majority of them have been English learners with us for many years. So these students there's different strategies that are employed for these students, because these are not students that came in knowing some English, but maybe not at the level needed to pass our English proficiency assessment to exit the program, but these are students that have been in for pretty much the majority of elementary school. So as Ms. Jett said, we do look for this, we look at iReady, so we do look all the way down to standards level data. Every time a teacher administers our iReady assessment, it does tell them for every student areas where they need some practice or some more intense focus, as well as the content they're ready for. And it also does provide them with areas where they should be pushed. So it's one of the things too, is we always talk about the idea of on grade content or on grade level content. And with the iReady platform, it does provide a lot of prescriptive information. Again, not to drive what the teacher does, but to offer suggestions. And then as we always talk about, it's just one data point. So what Ms. Jett said is also, it's looking at what they're actually receiving in terms of their language development. Because why they're in this category is because they, according to our access assessment that we administer every year, it's just saying they haven't quite reached that level of English fluency to exit being an English learner. And that's why we always show you guys the current, exited, and never. The idea there that our students who have exited the program, as you see, they generally outperform all of their peers, because those students have not only are mastering English, but they also are mastering English and they speak another language as well. So it's just hopefully some more context for you.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you, Member Astorga. Member Tapia Romero.
Thank you. Mine is in relation to 2.2 and where y'all gave like the what we're doing. Well, sorry, for each area when it gets to district level, principal level, and so forth. But in regards to principals, where do principals need more clarity or support from the district to sustain momentum toward that 19%?
Board President Gonzalez, board members, Superintendent Blakey. What we've been doing to support principals is really our assistant principals, or excuse me, our assistant superintendents have been working very intentionally to help them to write in very intentional 90-day plans, which include the strategies and the framework around when they're going to walk their classrooms, how they're going to support their teachers, what the strategies are going to look like in the classrooms. Those 90-day plans are something they've spent a lot of time and are continuing to spend more time with helping the principals create that plan and then implement that plan with fidelity. And with that comes, teacher support and leadership support for the principals.
Okay, and I guess looking further, like the level below from teachers to students, do you see that the students are they giving proper feedback, to be able to strengthen what's truly working in the classrooms for them? Are we getting like when you think of like a full 360 feedback, have we had the opportunity to ask our students, like, what do they feel is working for them, or has that been considered?
Yeah, just for clarity's sake, are you asking a question? Have the principals been in the classroom talking to the students to get clarity if the students understand.
Not principals, but even teachers. Yes, yes.
I don't have that data that's, I guess, that close to the student in the classroom. The assistant superintendent, assistant superintendent Sanchez and Kelly are both at a conference. I can get that information to you at a later date. I can't answer it with integrity right now. I'd be answering it with an assumption, and we probably don't want to do that.
No, and I appreciate that because I think it's critical, like we recognize the successes we've had. Like it's phenomenal that I feel like I'm seeing it in everything that I look at. But now to dive to the obviously the students are being impacted the most. What are they seeing that is the change that they've made to be able to perform, the way that they need to? Because ultimately they're the ones impacted day in and day out. And in years past and going through COVID, what did they see specifically to be able to make these successes? So
That's something I can work with the assistant superintendents, who then can work with the principals, and
Okay.
we can get that information to you at a later date.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Board Member Tapia Romero, I think one way we can also get that data is we do have principal advisory councils, which is measured in one of our guardrails. And it would be a good way for the principals to just directly ask the students who are on their council what kinds of things are changing for them. So we certainly can have Dr. Salazar work on that too, as far as getting that information from the students on the principal advisory councils.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. West, did you want to add?
Yeah, and I'm sure. Oh, he's not here tonight, but anyway, but just, sorry, we did the quorum. President Gonzalez, Board Member Tapia Romero, and Superintendent Blakey. So in addition to the wonderful information that Dr. Mallerwein will be providing, I'm sure he'll also get from us the panorama data, which is something that we're really excited about. And you guys hear us talk about the panorama data so much, but that it's been game changing for us. And Dr. Salazar is the champion of all champions of it. But what the middle school students say in that survey is very fascinating. And I've had the pleasure of looking at that data with Dr. Salazar, and I think Ms. Chet has as well. But they tell us what they need. And so I just wanted to add a tip in, and I'm sure that probably be the information that we end up providing you as part of that package is that they say what they need their teachers to do and what helps them and doesn't help them. Sorry, the opposite. And by that, the principal actually gets to see those responses. So the principal can actually see, well, what's going on with my sixth grade class? What are they saying? And they actually get to go through with them. And they're I was surprised that as an older person, I was surprised that they're very specific. So they say things like, when I don't know how to do something, I wish my teacher would push me a little bit more. They say, I'm trying my best, but I get frustrated and I don't know where to go. Like they're they're actually very prescriptive. And when we do look at those, a lot of times some of the things that the schools are doing that I've learned from Dr. Salazar, they're coming out of those responses. So I'm looking forward to what we'll be sharing with you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Member Jackson.
Thank you. So I just as a point of personal privilege, what I would like to say is I'm so thrilled to hear that Panorama has been working so well for our students, for our ability to measure our culture, our sense of belonging, and that it's really starting to demonstrate real impact for our students. And I just want to make note that Panorama was introduced to us by Board President Gonzalez. She is the one who brought us Panorama and who introduced it to us. And so I'm so thankful that she was able to give us that tool, because I think it is starting to impact our students in such a positive way. So my question is really between interim goal 2.1 and 2.2, but it's discussing the levels and specifically between the teacher level and the student level. And this isn't necessarily specific to either one of the goals, but I noticed that at the teacher level, it says, I'm on goal 2.2, if that matters, that it says teachers receive coaching demonstrations, co-planning opportunities, and classroom-ready toolkit resources that support instruction in rational numbers and proportional reasoning.
Then to go to student level, it says students experience more consistent exposure to more rigorous math tasks supported by scaffolds that help them explain reasoning, ... My question is, the tools are there for the teacher level. You guys have given, you give the teachers the tools that they need. You have obviously done a thorough analysis of what is going to lead to proficiency and better achievement. What is holding us back from implementation of all of those tools to get to the student level?
Board President Gonzalez, Dr. Blakey, and Board Member Jackson, thank you for the question. I need to ponder for a moment about what might be holding us back. I do agree that the supports are robust. The expectations are high. And I would say from an observational standpoint and somebody who's in the weeds of the work on a daily basis, that I believe the changes and the shifts in instruction that we want to see are being made. I do presume that we have a scope sort of issue, right? Like as we scale up our strategies, but to that point, we have been very intentional about using our performance framework so that we are driving the specific supports into the schools where we see the students the furthest away from achievement. Somebody used the phrase with me today, you can't boil the ocean. And in that moment and in this moment, it resonated like, no, I can't. But we are beginning to be able to pull out the pieces where we can really put that intensive support and begin to make those changes. I mean, without doing like maybe a formal deep dive in this moment, I'm not sure I have much more to offer.
Board President Gonzalez and Member Jackson, members of the board, I would say additionally, what might be holding back is the time for teachers to really dig into the toolkit. So middle school in particularly is really like lacking in the amount of collaboration time that they have. So schools have tried, middle schools have tried this year particularly to be creative in their scheduling to give teachers more collaboration time. And I know that's something that we're working on for next year's scheduling, is to help middle schools with something more similar to the high school schedule where the teachers get a collaboration time so that they have time to actually dig into the tools that are provided, because their schedule is very limited, and at the middle school particularly.
Okay, no, thank you for that. I just, the tools are there. The high quality instructional material is there. It seems like everything is there. It's just we need the uses and the implementation, and we need it with high expectations. We need it now, and we need it for those students that are, quite frankly, sir, I see you still sitting back there. I was like surprised at single-digit proficiencies. Like those are our kids that need these tools now. And so as soon as we can get them in front of them and get them implemented with fidelity, the better our students will be. So thank you.
Thank you. Member Jackson, Member Dominguez.
Thank you. I was on the Texas Education Agency website a day or two ago, and something that they cited related to this conversation is collaboration time. You can have lots of tools, but if you don't give your practitioners time to talk and to be creative about how, and to talk about culturally relevant approaches, which is where I'm headed, it stifles progress. And so as I hear you talk about collaboration time, I really worry in a way that I had never realized before serving on the board, that collaboration time is severely restricted at the elementary school level. And I don't know how we work that out, but it needs to be addressed. So I think you've already answered this question. And so I'm just checking in. How is the 360 feedback loop that Board Member Tapia Romero referred to earlier for educators in the classroom reflected in the planned actions? But I think I'm hearing that there's just limited time. But I don't want to assume that, so I'm throwing that question out there.
Board President Gonzalez, members of the board, Superintendent Blakey, thank you for the question. I appreciate Dr. Blakey elevating the importance of the collaboration time so that our teachers can indeed lean into their practice. And one of the key components of that we know is the reflection on a lesson, and then being able to think about how would I do this differently, or what inputs do I want to try next. And so definitely we work with all of our principals to prioritize collaboration to the greatest extent we can. And we also think about how to use other resources to provide that time. And, that's where we are. But again, elevating the need for that, it's really a critical component to teacher practice.
And would you say that this, the time that is available right now, is that district-wide or is it is it more prevalent in like priority schools?
It depends. So for elementary school, if they're, this is middle school data, but just overall in the district, if it's an elementary school that's a top school, they do have the extra hour a day. A lot of the schools that have seen the significant growth are tops schools. High school has a personal prep period and a collaboration prep period. Middle school, they try to do that, but the middle schools have tried to finagle it with their current schedule. So they try to be creative in how they can open up another period for the teachers. And then elementary schools that are not tops try to also be creative in using their specials time to try to open it up. Additionally, the schools have 2 hours every 20 days that they can use outside of the contract time.
Mid schools?
All
Or
schools.
All schools. So it sounds like it's still spotty in terms of implementing.
Board Member Dominguez, if I may, actually, we had this conversation with Dr. Mallerwine and the executive directors of teaching and learning just this week about how do we find out exactly what schools are using to provide collaboration time. And so whether it be those 2 hours or 2 hours for 20 days that were referenced, or if they've built it into their schedule, I think it's a really critical piece of the landscape that we need to understand in order to provide greater support to the schools.
Okay, so outside of collaboration time, there's no other 360 feedback loop opportunity. Is that what I'm hearing?
Board Member Dominguez, I think, again, it will depend on the school, but there are feedback loops. There are teaching and learning coaches. They will find time that would probably happen during a prep period where they might be able to follow up with the teacher. There would be a principal walkthrough where they would again be getting feedback from their principal. And then certainly our formal evaluation process provides feedback in a 360 loop.
May I ask another question, or?
Is it a follow-up or it's another question?
It's another question.
We'll come back around for that.
Cultural relevance.
Member Benavides.
Thank you, Board Member President Gonzalez. So my question is specific to interim goal 2.1 and the performance by the student groups declined across the board. So I'm focusing on the Native American students and the African American students, which was a decline of 2.6 points and 2.9 points respectively. And so it's kind of a broad question, but is this typical for beginning of the year test results, and what targeted instructional and or cultural strategies will be implemented to reverse this decline in those two groups specifically?
Thank you, Member Benavides, Board President Gonzalez, Member Benavides, Superintendent Blakey. So I'll take the first part and then Ms. Jett will do the second part. So in terms of assessment, so the way that the iReady assessment works is that it is designed to grow because it is based on, it's criterion based. So if you remember when I did those long presentations, this is meaning that we're looking to see what standards they know, what content they know. So with iReady, which was different than when we would do iStation, Amir is different as well. iReady, they will improve as the year goes on because they will be mastering more content. So your question about, is it typical to see this? Yes, we do see that all students tend to start lower because the assessment is made to champion growth. I don't know if they would like me saying this, but there's a little bit of a gamification in the sense that we get encouraged when we see that we're learning new things. So that assessment does have that built in. I think it makes it a powerful assessment. So your comment about seeing the BOI lower, that will always happen because that's the way the assessment is designed. And then when we come to next time, you'll hopefully see some middle of year scores and end of year scores that are much higher because the students have been exposed to more content and be able to demonstrate that they're able to, what they know and that they can do in that content area.
Thank you, Board Member Benavides. And thank you, Mr. West, for that explanation. As far as the strategies in terms of how we address the gaps that we see, the initial assessment is diagnostic in nature. And so it is providing, as Mr. West mentioned, some really specific information about what the skill gaps are. Now, in terms of the strategy and how we begin to make sure that our teachers are prepared to address those gaps, one of the primary ways that we're working with teachers is to talk about what we call prerequisite skills, but you may have heard as like activating prior knowledge. And I think we've all experienced that. I even think I end up having to do some 6th grade math lately. So, and I know in my head, like, I know how to do this, like I've seen it before, but I need a reminder. And so when we talk about a short 5 to 10 minute review of a prerequisite skill, that's what we mean. And so ensuring that the teacher is planning in advance what that review will look like goes a really long way to, first of all, understanding, did the diagnostic not give the student the opportunity to activate that prior knowledge and the student does actually do it? Or do we actually need to go back and reteach? So it's a critical part of the data cycle in terms of the assess, diagnose, and reteach. And so really looking through then the teacher lens and the teacher expertise in the classroom about what do my students know and where do I need to go in and fill those gaps.
Any follow-up?
No follow-up. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. So I have a question, really sort of spans across both goals, interim goals 2.1 and 2.2, but specifically relates to some of the planned actions. And so throughout here and sort of integral to the whole strategy overall is anchoring instruction in high quality instructional materials, providing grade level content, and providing coaching for teachers, for educators, as well as principals. And so my question for you is, given, and maybe it's a little bit follow up to Member Jackson's question, but given that we have these tools, what is getting in the way and what adult behaviors need to change in order to substantively be able to utilize these tools and improve our math outcomes?
I think that's a President Gonzalez, board members, Superintendent Blakey. I think that that's a pretty complex question. I think that math is pretty it's different subject to teach in a lot of, because you have a whole bunch of prerequisite skills that have to be learned and understood to then be able to demonstrate proficiency on the appropriate grade level. If the teachers, it's difficult to go back and reteach all those prerequisite skills and then stay on standard. I think so. One of the initiatives that we are consistently working on, and we met actually this week, is how do we personalize the approach for each student? Because the differentiation that has to occur in the classroom, sometimes the instructional materials, they're at grade level, and the prerequisite, they don't really address the prerequisite skills per se. So I think that it's taken our, it just depends on the fidelity in each classroom of how the high quality instructional materials are used. But I think that math is pretty complex, and we're seeing struggles all over the country. So what we're seeing here in Albuquerque is not necessarily an Albuquerque thing. And I think a lot of it is because the way math prerequisite skills have to be learned to then demonstrate at grade level. I'm not sure that answers your question, but I don't really have a better answer to talk to you about because I don't have the data that says on what level and fidelity in each specific classroom the high quality materials are being used. I know we have a plan. We go out and we have a plan to deliver the professional development, deliver the understanding of the tools. But again, we do support teacher autonomy in the classroom, and we're looking at what ways do we specifically support each teacher and how they are using the high quality materials, but also what does their pedagogy look like, and how are they using the strategies that we know is good practice in the classroom. I think it's a combination of both that have to happen to see the results I think that quite possibly you're asking about.
So I asked about adult behaviors that need to change. And so you brought up fidelity to the materials as well as teacher autonomy. And so can you then just connect the dots between those three things: adult behavior, fidelity to the materials, teacher autonomy, to answer the question?
I can talk about it in theory. I don't have the information. I don't have enough. I'm not in the classroom enough. And I think that might be something more that one of the assistant superintendents might be able to speak about. But again, I think, so I was a middle school math teacher. I didn't have the high quality materials that we have today. But I do know that the struggle is what I explained is about the prerequisite skills. Math has always been difficult at the middle school level. COVID accelerated that. For example, you might have to differentiate among 3 to 4 groups of kids. Now you have to differentiate among 8 groups of kids because the learning loss was not the same.
So just to jump in, I understand how math concepts and standards build upon each other. How
calculus background.
Okay, well then we're good. And so how the pandemic exacerbated some of those challenges. And so what I'm trying to get here again is it seems that we have multiple different strategies, pieces, tools in place. We're lacking some components in terms of, for example, more collaboration time. We do also have a guardrail around ensuring that teachers are using high quality instructional materials. So there should be measures to ensure that teachers are using the materials. So if there's a gap there between the use of the materials and teacher autonomy and fidelity, what do we know about that, and what adult behaviors might need to change? And even if you just speak to the district level, what behaviors might need to change at the district level if you can't speak to the school or the classroom level?
Yeah, I'll let Ms. Jett answer the rest of that question, but I will add that we do need to look at how are we personalizing learning in the math classroom. That is one area that we've talked about, and there are tools that can support that, and that's something that I think we need to look at our usage rate on like IXL and some of those tools, see what is actually, see if we're getting out of it what we're putting into it financially. And then we need to look to what tools can personalize math instruction for our students, because the gaps are enormous. And it's a really tough thing for our teachers to fill in all the prerequisite skills for all the students in the classrooms. And then I'll pass it on to Ms. Jett.
Thank you, Dr. Malawine. Board President Gonzalez, when I think about changes in adult behaviors that would need to occur, the first one is thinking about the rollout and the training of a high quality instructional material. Our leaders have to be really well trained in the aspects of accountability that go along with that. Because without and I'm talking about the principal and the assistant principal specifically, They are the ones who are in the school every day, in the classroom more regularly than someone in perhaps my position, to really provide that coaching and provide that accountability piece too. But if they're not familiar with the aspects of the curriculum, it's a very difficult thing for them to do. So the first change in adult behavior I would recommend, and we are moving into a math adoption next year, is how we train our leaders in the high quality materials that we have. I think a second change in adult behavior is, the goal is certainly to implement the high quality instructional material, but it's also to deliver rigorous and real world learning experiences. And so one shift that I'm grateful we had principals speaking to tonight is our middle school redesign, and how we're really thinking about interdisciplinary teaching and learning. I was really thinking about math, obviously today, preparing for this presentation. There are very few areas of life that are not directly attached to math. Like, there's just very few. And I don't know, like, I'm not maybe sophisticated enough to know if that's always been true, but there are so many ways that we can make these real world connections with students to mathematics. And so I think that's a key part of the interdisciplinary work, as well as the wraparound supports that we're providing for the students. And then finally, I believe that getting really good at our data literacy, and I referenced this earlier, and that is a change that we're influencing specifically through our teaching and learning coaches in our priority and emerging schools. We're really focusing on their training to take back into the schools. How do you take a teacher in their classroom through that data cycle of assess, diagnose, and reteach? And so that we are ensuring, sometimes I think we leave too much to chance, and we're just like, okay, here's all the skills, and we know the math skills, but really what we need to know is, what is a student able to do? What is a student not able to do? And how do we fill those gaps? So for me, those are key changes in adult behaviors that we're influencing at the district level.
Yeah. Thank you. To this side, do we have any additional questions? Member Storga?
So this connects to the ELL students and my first question, but also to President Gonzalez's point about student outcomes focused governance and what that means, and the model that we do have around adult behaviors. So my question is, how consistently are teachers embedding dual learning objectives, so math and language, in their planning and instruction? So for example, this would be like vocabulary and language scaffolds being incorporated into numbers and operations.
Board President Gonzalez, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Blakey. Thank you, Board Member Astorga, for the question. So this has been an ongoing emphasis in the work that our bilingual department leads and our ELD team. And I will admit it's not my strong area of expertise, but I've definitely been involved in it, even as a teacher at West Mesa High School, where we're incorporating those language standards, specifically through mainly GLAD strategies, but in every lesson, including our math lessons, we should be thinking about, I mentioned earlier, the language routines, but we're always also thinking about that, the writing component, the speaking component, the listening component. I'm probably not gonna be able to list all of them right here. But those things are part of the essential lesson planning that we support teachers in doing, and we train them to do. The philosophy is every teacher is a language teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do we ensure that we're providing those scaffolds, whether they be sentence stems or language routines, you know, so that students feel confident in speaking about whatever the subject is.
And just a quick follow-up, do we see a difference between teachers who are TESOL endorsed compared to non-TESOL endorsed when it comes to what math and ELL students look like?
I don't think we've looked at that, but that is a interesting thing to look at. We haven't looked at that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other follow-up questions here? This side. Member Benavides, I'm sorry, Dominguez, you had one?
And, well, I'll go forth with it. To address the struggles with some student populations, Native Americans, ELLs, Black African American students, achieving math proficiency at a higher level. How is how is the district tapping community partners such as UNM or tribal leaders to help with cultural relevance on the topic of math and improving growth?
Ms. Campos, I think that you're tagging you.
So I'll begin and maybe Ms. Campos will, would I join us at the, oh, good, thank you. Board Member Dominguez, thank you for that question. I will hand the specifics of that leadership over to Chief Campos in just a moment, but I am thinking about work we are doing through our academic cabinet department structure, where we are putting the progress monitoring strategies in front of the whole team. And then the departments are ensuring that what they're doing and they're supporting are directly aligned to these strategies. So part of, I think, the answer to your question is around building the coherence in the work. But I will defer for specificity to Chief Campos.
President Gonzalez, Superintendent Blakey, Board Member Dominguez, and other members of the board, thank you. So I just want to piggyback on Chief Jett. This year specifically, again, with our realignment that we started this past January. So this is our first school year that we really started this in August, is again, as Chief Jett said, a much more alignment between academics, teaching and learning, and our Indian Education Department, our Language and Cultural Equity Department, which is our ELLs, and our newcomer program. So it is kind of a little of a work in progress. So this is not that we hadn't collaborated before, but we're being much more strategic and much more aligned in this. So, I mean, in meetings and collaboration, this is the first time that we really sat from the groundwork and everyone from those departments at the same table, really starting to create those things, asking those strategic questions, and then saying, who are we missing from those conversations? So I consider this kind of like a sleeping giant, if you want to call this, because we're really at the beginning of a really large periphery, and we're asking very strategic questions right now, particularly as you mentioned, Board Member Dominguez, who's missing from these conversations, not only here at the district level, but at the community level, because we all know there's a huge amount of phenomenal community input that we can put in. So I am very much moving forward now also that we have our Senior Director, Dr. Yupa Gunderson, in bringing forth in terms of our tribal community. We started this several years ago with our African community and our African American Advisory Council. Particularly, we have many community members from our African community, the entrepreneurs in the business sector. So for instance, I'm again thinking about for math, that's a phenomenal area and how we're tweaking these things. And I'm kind of going full circle here, but also when we're looking at the academies, how we're bringing those pieces in as well. So I think we're kind of at a little bit of a starting point right now, but we're really excited with that in terms of really identifying those key piece areas. I know myself and Indian Ed and Language and Cultural Equity have been starting to have meetings with our tribal partners, particularly the education departments, in terms of how are we really connecting on those pieces, as well as like, again, bringing in specific tribal members or community members that way. So I think moving forward, we're going to see much more of a significant alignment moving forward.
Okay, so, and I understand. I mean, the Mississippi Miracle took 15 years. So, and this is a nascent step, but I think it's also important to know, like, what are the benchmarks? What are your goals in between getting there and implementing for like reaching out to community? And it's interesting that you mentioned the African American Advisory Council. I haven't heard anything about it, that if they've been meeting or not. So I don't, I'm unaware of those conversations. So it would be helpful to have some benchmarks that we can hear about as you move forward in this the establishment of a more comprehensive
So Board
effort.
Member Dominguez, we can certainly start creating those, just in terms of the council. I know you participated in several meetings last year with them. They are continuing to meet on a monthly basis. So that is still continuing.
Okay.
Yes.
And just for a lot of the benchmarks too, you'll see in these progress monitoring reports. And so as we evolve and certainly as we move these numbers on math forward, because we're very concerned about them, you will see in the future progress monitoring reports more in-depth information on some of these things that we're trying to get off the ground to be able to really make a change in the outcomes in math specifically.
And just as a point of privilege and clarification, I know things take time, and especially when you're a student learning, trying to make up all those background or prerequisite skills. And so our job is to hold everyone accountable to data. I get that. But on the other side of that data, I also recognize that there are children that just, they're all going to learn at a different rate. To your point, Dr. Allweiner, you know, you've got 8 different stages and you're trying to get them all to one point. So I just don't want the board to forget that these are kids. And I'm eager to see better results, more growth. But I recognize that we navigate difficult choices. I don't want to drill and kill either passion for learning. So thank you for your report.
Thank you. Any additional questions? I did have one more question. So in this conversation tonight, we've talked a lot about the strategies, but also the connections between essentially the dimensions of goal 4 and the sense of belonging and sense of culture. My question is, how might changes show up in future budgets, or what additional budget needs might be needed to continue to foster that level of sense of belonging, sense of community, the where everyone belongs program within middle schools, to be able to make these connections, particularly as we're thinking about the students named in the Martinez Yazzie case and some impending federal shifts in funding.
Board President Gonzalez and members of the board, I think you will see it in things you had just mentioned. So the Where Everyone Belongs program does require financial support to be able to make it happen. And we know that as we know how much goal 4 is connected to students being able to achieve. So being able to really build up their own self-efficacy is really important. And we have seen even early results in some of the schools that have been using this, that there are connections to their performance in class because of their sense of belonging and their own sense of self, just like many of us would have. So that does require funding. The other place that you'll see it represented in the budget is the need for middle school, as you heard Mr. Burrow and other principals talk about the next education workforce that we are doing in middle school. Particularly, it does answer some of the questions that you all had earlier, is if there's a team of adults working with a group of students, then the students have a connection to a broader group of teachers than just relying on the connection between their one math teacher and the one student. So bringing in, for example, the community partners that we talked about to serve as perhaps role models for the students, tutors for the students, all of those things is part of this initiative to have more adults on teams with students in the classroom. And that certainly is also a budget that we would see. We are going to try to work with the state on a lot of this funding through different funds that are available that wouldn't require federal funding necessarily or at all, by looking at some of the innovation monies that we would be able to use to continue some of these programs that we're seeing a lot of early success with.
Great, thank you. And thank you, administration and board members for a productive conversation. Now we will vote on whether we will accept this monitoring report. As a point of clarity, we're voting to accept the report as a formal acknowledgement that we've had a satisfactory conversation with the superintendent and that we have a deeper understanding of how the current reality for students is lined up with our community's vision for them. In order to be able to accept the report, we must be able to answer yes to the following 3 questions. Does the reality of this report meet our vision of the goal?
Yes.
Yes, all right. Is there growth towards the vision? Yes. And is there a strategy and plan sufficient to cause growth toward the vision? Yes. All right. So because all the answers are yes, then the board can accept the monitoring report, confident that the data is accurate and that the superintendent is performing. At this point, I believe we're ready to entertain a motion to accept this monitoring report.
I move we accept the progress monitoring report for interim goals 2.1 and 2.2 math proficiency. This is Member Jackson.
And this is Crystal. I'll second it.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Danella Storga,
Yes.
Tapia Romero,
Yes.
Whitney Jackson.
Yes.
Dominguez,
Yes.
Heather Benavides.
Yes.
Danielle Gonzalez.
Yes. So the motion carries. Thank you for the presentation and more importantly for your work to improve math outcomes for our students. Our next item is to consider approval of the consent agenda. So we need a motion and a second for approving items 6.1 through 6.11.
This is Member Tapia Romero, and I move for approval to accept the consent agenda for items 6.1 through 6.11.
And I will second. This is Board Member Benavides.
Great. We have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Storga,
Yes.
Crystal Tapia Romero,
Yes.
Whitney Jackson.
Yes.
Heather Dominguez.
Yes.
Heather Benavides.
Yes.
Danielle Gonzalez.
Yes. So that carries and the consent agenda is approved. The next item on the agenda is the president's report. So we heard public forum tonight and just want to acknowledge that public forum is not an opportunity for dialogue, but we do want each speaker to know that you were heard and that we are working with the administration on resolutions. Some of the issues that we heard tonight were regarding math scores, middle school redesign, the web initiatives, a student survey, school growth, children's health and well-being, student belonging, and community and student workforce agreements. So thank you again to our public forum guests. And that concludes the president's report. The next Board of Education meeting will be Wednesday, November 19th at 5:05 p.m. or immediately following the Finance Committee here in the Allison Bruce King Educational Complex at 6400 Uptown Boulevard and live streamed at aps.edu. The next special Board of Education meeting will be Wednesday, November 12th, 2025 at 5 p.m. in that same location. And with that, we are adjourned.